Hi, I'm Andy Lewis from healthycanine.com, and today I'm going to share with you my number one tip for making food that your dog absolutely loves.
Okay, yes, I admit I love your food.
I know you do, buddy.
But oh my god, your red shoes are the best.
Yeah, I'm still mad about that. You knew they were the only shoes that look good with my red hot pants. Smoking.
Yep.
My number one tip for getting your dog to eat the food that you're serving is get the texture just right. Now, I'm not sure whether or not hearing that disappoints you, but I'm almost certain it probably surprises you. Probably you were thinking that I have some kind of special flavor. I put a special flavor in the food, and that's really going to tilt the balance and take my dog from rejecting it to eating it. Well, it's not. It's the texture. You get the textures right, and you can serve the exact same flavors which are being rejected right now, and your dog will start eating it. So the obvious question is, why is it texture and not flavor that's going to make the difference? Well, let me explain. You and I, we have 9,000 taste buds on our tongue, but your dog only has less than 1,500 taste buds. That's less than 20% of the sensory input regarding flavor that we receive. So when you're getting less information about flavor, it becomes less significant in the decision-making process about whether to eat it or not. But your dog, my dog, all dogs explore and manipulate their environment through their mouth. And so the sense of feeling and temperature and abrasiveness and pressure, these kind of things in their mouth provide much more feedback, more sensory input, and therefore are much more important in the decision-making process. So it follows that if you can get the textures right, so the food feels good inside the mouth, that's the key, that's the secret that's going to get your dog to start eating your food. Okay, now it's time to discuss specifically which texture you need for each of the ingredients. In any meal you cook at home for your dog, you should have these 4 main ingredients, which are protein, fibrous carbohydrate, which is basically a vegetable, starchy carbohydrate, which is things like brown rice or quinoa or oats, and fat. The secret with the meat is cutting it into chunks like this. So you want to chunkify the meat. Okay, that's a chunk, that's a chunk, that's a chunk. Okay, now it might seem obvious that you chunkify the meat as I put it, but other options are mince. I mean, you could just as easily go and get a mince or some kind of ground meat and mix it in and make the meal that way. It's still the exact same nutrition, but what you'll find is your dog may eat that in the beginning, but then eventually go off it. And the reason your dog will go off it is not because of the taste, it's entirely because of the texture. The next essential ingredient I want to discuss the texture of is the fibrous carbohydrate, okay, or the vegetable. Okay, so what I want you to take note of here is that the vegetables are small in size. This is a really important textural characteristic of the vegetables. If you make them too large, so large that they are a half to a full mouthful for a dog, your dog won't eat them. But if you keep them small like this, so that they mix in with the other ingredients and aren't easily identified and isolated, then you have a much higher chance your dog's going to eat them. So make sure that you keep them small. So that's a bit of bean, that's a bit of carrot. There is one more that is also really important. So the first is that we have the right size. The second is that we have the right consistency. So you want to cook the vegetables so they offer very little resistance to your dog's mouth when your dog's chewing them. If they offer too much resistance in your dog's mouth, your dog won't like that and your dog will spit them out. Okay, so instead cook them thoroughly so they're actually quite soft. And you can see that's a piece of carrot. That's just crushing between my fingers very, very easily. The next essential ingredient I'm going to discuss the textural characteristics of is the starchy carbohydrate. In this case, it's brown rice. Now, with the starchy carbohydrate, it's kind of similar to the vegetable. What you want to do is you want to cook it enough that it offers very little resistance. Okay, and the way that you do that is you overcook the rice. You want to cook the rice so it is very sticky, like this. You can see that's a big lump of rice. It's all sticking together. Okay, and also it offers very little resistance. If I squash it, it just crushes. The rice just crushes. Very similar to the way the vegetable. Okay, the last essential ingredient I want to discuss the texture of is the fat. Now, this is a bowl of food that I've prepared for my dog in bulk. I made this like a couple of months ago, and I've just got it out of the freezer. Now, I'm holding up the whole bowl when I talk about the fat is because I can't actually pull a piece of fat out of here and show you. And the reason that I can't is because that's the textural characteristic you want to have of the fat. Basically, make it disappear. Don't have big lumps of fat in the meal. If a dog eats big chunks of fat or really fatty food, they're prone to get pancreatitis. So it has a fat component of about 10%, but there's no actual big lumps of fat. There is just one more thing that I want to discuss regarding the characteristics, the textural characteristics of the meal. And this is something which is universal for the entire meal, so I'm not going to speak about a particular ingredient individually. What I'm going to talk about is the way that everything clings together, okay, by making the components soft and clingy, especially the starchy carbohydrate, okay, and making it saucy. Making sure there's enough fluid in there mixed in with the meat essence or the stock, whatever you use, that it actually creates like a bit of a sauce, a nice thick sauce that's sticking everything there together. In that there, what you can see is like a clump that's really holding together by itself quite nicely there. In that I have meat, I have brown rice, I have beans, peas, carrots, everything in there, all sticking together. And that's really, really quintessentially what you want. That is the exact perfect texture of the meal that you're going to feed your dog, because everything is stuck together. And if your dog wants to eat the meat, which he or she is going to enjoy the most, he has no choice but to eat all of the things that are also stuck to the meat. Okay? There are other tricks to really sort of ramp up the desirability of the meal, but those kind of things are in other videos. Today I'm just talking about the texture, and I hope from what you've seen so far in this video, you're now feeling confident that if your dog has been rejecting or has gone off the food you've been serving, that you can go into your kitchen now and using the exact same ingredients that you were using before, prepare them in a way that they are texturally exactly what your dog is really going to enjoy.
Also enjoy red purses.
Red purses? Are you trying to tell me that you've chewed up my red purse as well?
Oh, maybe. Yes.
Oh, that's it. You've completely ruined that outfit.